Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you all for joining this evening as we continue this series of Nectar instruction. So we'll just start sharing our screen and we'll get started right away. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to Nectar of Instruction, a 10-part series balancing work, family, and bhakti. The quick recap of the first 4 verses that we've already covered. The first verse is the 6 urges to tolerate, Vacha-vegam, the urge to speak, and the Krishna conscious solutions that we came up with were pause before reacting, use words to uplift, limit or eliminate gossip. Then there's jivha-vegam, the urge of the tongue, and we tolerate that by engaging ourselves in cooking with devotion, prasadam, avoiding indulgent snacking, and celebrating fasting days. Then there's udara-vegam. Udara-vegam is the urge of the belly to eat way too much. So the solutions were portion awareness, having routines with the family, and a spiritual digestion, chanting after having meals. And then there's upastha-vegam, the urge of the genitals. So we model dignity and respect by maintaining respectful spousal relationships, guarding family entertainment, and engaging the youth early in discussing values. Then there's krodha-vegam, the urges of anger. So here we want to reset instead of react. We want to teach emotional regulation to our children. And of course, prasadam as a solution. The prasadam energy keeps us balanced. And then there's mano-vegam. Mano-vegam is the urges of the mind. So we want to limit our distractions and use spiritual things to unwind. We want to anchor the day and practice inner surrender. So that is verse number 1. Then verse number 2, quick recap. 6 pitfalls to avoid. So atyahar means eating more than necessary or over collecting. Prayas and prajalpa. Prayas means over endeavoring, working excessively for things that are too difficult to achieve and that are not essential. Prajalpa is useless, purposeless, damaging speech. Niyamagraha, improper relationship with the rules. Two extremes, rigid ritualism or lazy disregard of the rules. Then there's janasanga. Janasanga is worldly association, giving your heart to those who are not interested in bhakti. And then laulyam, greed or restlessness, greed for money or enjoyment, and so on. Then we went on to verse number 3, the 6 principles favorable to bhakti, utsaha, enthusiasm, nishchaya, endeavoring with confidence, dhairya, being patient, tat karma pravartanat, acting according to regular principles, sangatyaga and satovritte. So that's abandoning association of non-devotees and following the footsteps of previous acharyas. Verse number 4. This is what we covered last week. So before we go to verse 5, let's just recap. In verse number 4, the 6 types of loving exchanges between devotees: giving gifts, receiving gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam, and offering prasadam. These are the natural behaviors that flourish when there's genuine love and trust between devotees. Now here's the thing. to truly engage in those exchanges meaningfully, we need to know who we are engaging with. We can't relate to everyone in the same way. And that's not being judgmental, it's being intelligent. And this is where verse number 5 comes in. Verse number 5 teaches us how to relate with different levels of devotees in a respectful and appropriate way. Honoring all Vaishnavas. Discrimination without offense. This is actually a very thought-provoking subject. How to honor all Vaishnavas and still learn to discern how close to get to whom. In the previous verse, we asked to inquire confidentially and open up our hearts to another devotee. And yet we know that we cannot just do that with every devotee we come across. You get a sense. How to discern, how to offer respect properly. So respect is an integral part of our culture. Amanina manadena. Do not expect honor, but give all respect and honor to others. This is foundational to all our interactions. Are there any guidelines? Any guidelines around how much respect to give to whom? Is it the same amount to everyone? Does it vary? So we're going to explore verse number 5. This is Rupa Goswami's own words, and that are very instructive. The nectar of instruction. So recite verse 5. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranati bhishcha bhajantamisham Shushrushaya bhajana vigyamananyamanya Nindadishunya hridam ipsita sangalabdhya. Translation. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, Diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So here, if you look carefully, we'll see there are 3 levels of devotees. Srila Prabhupada elaborates on these 3 levels, the 3 categories. Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttama Adhikaris. These distinctions are not meant to create hierarchies of ego. They're meant to guide our behavior so that we can show honor to each person appropriately. So let us look at the 3 categories of devotees. The first one is Kanishta. Kanishta. Nishtha means determination. Kanishta means maybe he has some, maybe he doesn't have, Ka is like weak determination, but still some determination is there. So this is the beginning stage. The devotee who has started chanting Krishna's names, but may not yet be regulated in their behavior. Maybe they're still struggling with material habits. Maybe they don't even have formal initiation. Maybe they don't know how to behave properly. But they're practicing at some level. Rupa Goswami says, one should mentally offer them honor. Mentally honor them. Why mentally? Because at this stage, the person may not be ready to accept formal relationships or responsibility. But our attitude should be one of respect, not disdain. That's important. Then the next level, Madhyama Adhikari. So the Madhyama Adhikari, this is the practicing devotee, and they're progressive and responsible. They've taken Diksha. Diksha meaning they've made a formal commitment that, no, I'm giving my life to Krishna. That is Diksha. They're following the principles very strictly. They do worship the deity very sincerely, and they're steadily engaged, and they behave nicely with other devotees. So what is the instruction of Rupa Goswami here? The instruction here is to offer visible obeisances. Offer obeisances unreservedly. Not just mental respect, but open, visible honor. We fold our hands, we bow our heads, acknowledge their position. Why? Because they have taken responsibility. They're walking the path with discipline. They are making progress, and they're incredibly sincere. This is called Madhyama. Madhyama means a medium level. Now we come to the highest stage, Uttama Adhikari, the pure devotee. This person is deeply absorbed in Krishna and is free from the desire to criticize other people. The heart is soft. It's not at all envious. And they inspire. Their absorption in Krishna inspires us. Simply by their presence, we feel inspired. So to such a devotee, what does Rupa Goswami recommend? What does he instruct? To such a devotee, he says, we should run to serve, associate with them, inquire from them, and serve them with faith. And who better to describe as an Uttama Adhikari than Srila Prabhupada himself? He didn't need a certificate. He transformed people simply by sitting in a park and chanting. He transformed the whole world. He had no personal selfish agendas. His life was Krishna's life completely. That's why now, even after 60 years, devotees still seek shelter in his instructions. All devotees in ISKCON are inspired by him. We all worship him and recognize him as the Uttama Adhikari of the movement. Now remember that all three are to be considered Vaiṣṇavas. And even the lowest category, the Kanishta, should be honored and respected. Amanina manadena. The purport to this verse, and I strongly urge you to read the purport, it's quite extensive. The purport stresses, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. See, Prabhupada is highlighting that Rupa Goswami is telling us we must be smart enough, intelligent enough to make the distinctions. So then the question may be asked, and it's a real concern, who am I to judge another devotee? Isn't that arrogant? Isn't that dangerous? But this is the key. We're not being asked to judge in a sense of condemnation. We're being asked to discern in the service of proper relationships. So there's discernment, which is not the same as judgmentalism. So we have to clearly define the difference between discernment and judgmentalism. Okay. In discernment, we seek the truth with humility. In judgmentalism, assume superiority with pride. Discernment helps one relate appropriately, but judgmentalism labels and dismisses others. That's not what we want. Discernment is rooted in service and protection, and judgmentalism is rooted in ego and comparison. Discernment is internal, quiet, and respectful, always respectful. But judgmentalism is external, vocal, and often divisive. An example of discernment: let me be careful from whom I hear. Judgmentalism, an example would be, they're just a bogus devotee. The two different things. We are not being asked to be judgmental. We're being asked to discern. It's a difference. So Rupa Goswami clearly tells us in this verse of Nectar of Instruction that we must identify the level of the devotee in order to properly interact with them. He's not encouraging us to look down on others. Rather, he's helping us to avoid offending senior devotees by not appreciating or serving them properly. That's an offense if you don't do that properly. And then we also don't want to offend junior devotees by expecting things from them that they're not ready for. And third, offending our own bhakti by not taking or by taking inappropriate shelter or neglecting the uplifting association that we need. See, it's key. This is what he's helping us to do by encouraging us and giving us a framework of proper discernment. Srila Prabhupada quotes also on this point, and he quoted often. He would say, one should not imitate the behavior of a great devotee. That's dangerous. Yet at the same time, he was extremely careful never to encourage pride or condescension. He said, even if someone chants the name of Krishna once sincerely, he should be respected. So while we discriminate based on behavior, we never stop offering respect. So following Rupa Goswami, you're not judging who is a pure devotee and who is not. That's Krishna's business. That's not our point. That, oh, he's a pure devotee, he's not. No, that's not a thing. But you're responsibly noticing, do I feel spiritually uplifted around this person? Does their association nourish me, or does it drain my energy and bhakti? Are they respectful and Krishna conscious, or always critical? This is important for us to make note of. So how do we identify who is Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama? So we are guided by this verse that we offer mental respect to Kanishta devotees, especially those who chant Krishna's names, but are not yet refined in behavior or understanding. So these are some of the key indicators. And of course, not all of these may apply, but sometimes a combination of them can help us get a sense how to identify the level. If a devotee is consistently disrespectful to other devotees, they may speak angrily, harshly, gossip heavily, criticize others, or they lack appreciation of senior devotees. Sometimes even heavier symptoms like vindictiveness and envy can be observed. So the clear signs of Kanishta level. Then their own practice may be inconsistent. Even though they're inconsistent, they may walk around very proudly. They may chant occasionally, maybe regularly, but their lifestyle contradicts the core principles of bhakti, especially how they treat other devotees. Then another one is lack of interest in Shastra. They couldn't care less for philosophical learning or quoting or even inclination to hear the Shastric discussions and discourses. They focus their energies on emotions or just maybe social connections, but not spiritual advancement. Another possible symptom is attachment to material life, seeking material benefits under the guise of bhakti. More and more, material things are never enough. Another possible symptom is they're sectarian or narrow-minded, overly dogmatic or judgmental of others without having a deep understanding. And then avoidance of service, constantly trying to avoid service, not eager to take on any kind of responsibility, even in a small way, or engage practically in any of these various devotional services. So it's not that any one of these is a surefire indicator, but usually a combination of these. And in particular, the most important one is how they treat other devotees. That's really the biggest one. And then all these others just make it worse. Now, such a person may have received Harinam Diksha. They may even wear tilak and robes. But if their heart and the behavior don't align with the Vaishnava values, they still should be respected, but mentally. It's very important. Now, one may ask, okay, how do I respect from a distance? This is a vital art. Discretion without disdain. We don't want to blacken our own hearts by misapplying discretion. We don't want disdain to creep in. It's a balance, it's delicate. So what to do? Greet warmly and sincerely and briefly. Now offer a kind Hare Krishna and a smile, but avoid deep engagement if the energy feels draining or critical. Then mentally offer respect. Consciously remind yourself, this person is chanting Krishna's name. I honor that. I will honor that, even if I don't align with their behavior. That's our mental respect. We have to, even if we're sometimes really put off, but we must thank Krishna that they have Krishna's name in their heart, in their lives. And you offer them respect for choosing Krishna's name. That's the baseline. Of course, for protecting ourselves, we want to limit our social closeness. We can politely decline invitations that feel inappropriate or emotionally draining. Instead, we can say things like, I'm trying to keep my focus tight these days. My time is pretty structured right now. Maybe we can connect later, and so on. We want to limit that closeness. So it's for our own protection. And if you have to engage only on neutral or Krishna-centered topics. And if the conversation goes somewhere else, steer the discussion back, steer it to Krishna or simple devotional topics without going too deep. Okay, so those are things to do. And then there's also what not to do, right? So what not to do, this protects us from the offense, from offenses, and also in case where we might mistake a higher caliber devotee for Kanishta. That could happen. We might think this is a Kanishta, it turns out he's not, or she's not. So things to avoid. Do not mock, criticize, or speak condescendingly. That's offensive. It is aparadha. Never do that, no matter what. Don't do the mockery. Don't be taunting. Then don't create a public distance in a way that humiliates them. Like when they come and when people are watching, you just turn your back. No. Be very careful with that. And never speak of their flaws to others. It's not our business. Otherwise, we end up falling the trap of gossip, not discretion. See how it's different? Its discernment is quiet. Be very careful with this. Prabhupada writes in the purport about certain types of kanishtas. Some kanishtas, one example of kanishta he gives is the Prakrita Sahajiyas. Sahajiyas, they also chanting Krishna's name all day, but they dress up like gopis, these men, and so on. They do very odd things. But still, Prabhupada said, respect them from a distance. Prabhupada writes about such kanishtas and insincere devotees in the purport. He says, such people should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. Prabhupada says this. It's not something that has been recently made up. No, this is Srila Prabhupada writing an elaboration on the instruction of Rupa Goswami. This is how we protect ourselves. But we have to do it with a great deal of care and discretion. Now, trying to keep our distance while remaining polite and offenseless is a very difficult task. It's very delicate and requires a great deal of internal humility and devotional attitude. It's delicate because we can easily slip into the trap of feeling holier than thou. I'm so much better than that guy. Oh, he's a Kanishta. No. What is our attitude? Well, we should be cultivating this, that I'm also struggling. I just want to protect my practice. Let me be kind, but also clear about my boundaries. And then, of course, Krishna is in their heart too. He'll guide them in due course. He's the Lord after all. And we pray to the Lord to give us guidance on how to navigate this delicate arena. If we recognize this important thing, then we will protect ourselves from committing offenses. Our first priority in Krishna conscious practice is to escape from offenses, avoid offenses as much completely, especially offensive devotees. So that's all about kanishtas. Now, Madhyama, from the purport, the Madhyamadikari, we understand, she or he has received initiation, Diksha, from a bona fide spiritual master, steadily engaged in devotional service, including deity worship and regulated sadhana and outreach and preaching and so on, and understands the four relationships: worshiping the Lord with love, befriending devotees, treats everyone well. That's key. They treat everyone really nicely, like exemplary treatment, and they're compassionate to the innocent. And the Madhyama is avoiding the envious. See, avoid the envious, compassionate to the innocent, make friends with devotees, and worship the Lord with love. They may not be fully realized yet. They may not have the full strength of understanding Shastras solidly, but they cannot be swayed. They may not be able to convince somebody else to take up Krishna consciousness, but they also cannot be convinced to give up Krishna consciousness. Their faith in the process is firm. And they're sincerely practicing bhakti under guidance. So they're progressive. So how do we respect a Madhyama devotee? We offer humble obeisances. It's physically offering dandvat pranams, or bowing the head when seeing such a devotee, is appropriate and encouraged. It trains the heart to recognize and honor bhakti in others. So that's the first point. Offer humble obeisances. And Prabhupada wrote that, he wrote about George Harrison. George Harrison is engaging so nicely with a pure heart. And therefore he considered George Harrison at least a Madhyama devotee. He says we offer him obeisances without reservation. Even though George Harrison is so much younger than him. So you can see the example Prabhupada is setting. And the obeisances, they're not just about posture. It reflects an attitude that says, here is a sincere soul walking the path that I aspire to walk. They're serving Krishna. Let me learn from their examples. It's Madhyama. So how do we interact with the Madhyama devotee? We inquire submissively. Yes. We ask questions, not to argue or to show off our own erudition or to make them look bad. No. To learn. We want to observe and learn. How do they do deity worship? How do they chant? How do they preach? How do they serve others? How do they organize their lives? How do they mold their lives? How do they manage their time? What are their priorities? How is it that they're progressing so much? Observe and learn. And seek their association for service. In other words, we want to be their friend, right? Find ways to collaborate on seva, on projects, assist, learn. This is another opportunity for learning. Attend their classes, see how they give class. You can bounce off ideas on tips on sadhana. All this is very spiritually nourishing. And also give them encouragement. Remember, they may still have doubts, they may still feel lonely, but our sincere appreciation can uplift them because they're progressive, they're on the path of progress. But they've made already a lot of progress. That's why they're at the level. Yeah. Now, those are things you do, certain things we want to avoid. We want to avoid treating them casually or disrespectfully, just because they're not visibly senior. You want to avoid expecting them to act like uttamadhikaris. They may still have struggles. They're progressive. They're great friends. But they may also need support. And avoid flattering them for some kind of social gain. And definitely avoid envying them for their advancement. Sometimes, in our own weakness, we might think, how is he like making so much progress? Look at me. And then that can go dark. It can be appreciative, but can also become a little dark. So be careful of envy not creeping in. See? Because they're getting more attention than me. And so we may feel. The other things we want to avoid. So when you see someone coming regularly to the temple, steadily serving, or trying sincerely to improve, offer them your heart. Gauge their sense of sincerity and then accordingly open up your heart. Maybe not all the confidences yet, but your genuine appreciation. Thank you for your service. I noticed your beautiful deity dress arrangement, so expertly done. Or you are inspiring me to chant properly or chant better. I'm seeing you're sitting up so nicely. Your eyes are so much focused and you're chanting so clearly and it's inspirational. These simple words of appreciation will certainly bolster them, but it'll also deepen your own bhakti. So it'll deepen our own bhakti when we appreciate others. And again, it comes down to respect. Krishna consciousness is basically a culture of respect, giving respect everywhere. Amanina manadena. So trinadapi sunichena means more humble than a blade of grass. Taroriva Vaiṣṇavas. Tolerant. We talked about tolerance in the very first verse. Tolerate all the urges of anger, urges of speech, and all that. And of course, we tolerate any offenses made to us. Trinadapi sunichena. Taroriva Vaiṣṇavas. And then amanina manadena. We give all respects and honor to others. And if we don't get some, it's okay. We don't crave for it. We are not in any anxiety if we don't get it. Of course, if we get it, we receive it graciously. If we get some appreciation, we receive it graciously and say, thank you. I'm able to do this by the mercy of my senior devotees, by the guidance of my guru, and so on. We give the credit upwards. So we have to also learn how to receive respect. But amanina means if you don't get it, it's okay. But manadena, we don't fail in giving appropriate respect to others. It has to be appropriate respect. And that's what this verse is about. So we respect a Madhyama devotee. Okay, and it helps our devotional service like anything. Then we move on to Uttama Adhikari. Srila Prabhupada, obviously, Uttama Adhikari, par excellence. The Uttama Adhikari is a rare and exalted devotee. And Srila Rupa Goswami, he is drawing from scripture and the behavior of the Lord's intimate associates. He describes them as follows. He says that the Uttamadhikari is advanced in undeviated devotional service, not a trace of selfish or material motivation, not at all. All that person cares about is devotional service. Then the Uttamadhikari is free from the tendency to criticize. They see Krishna in everyone and everything. Now, someone may argue, but Srila Prabhupada used to criticize so many people. He used to criticize the rascal scientists, the rascal politicians, the rascal Mayavadis. He's constantly criticizing people. Sometimes he would even shout at the devotees, like, why did you do it this way? And so on. But the criticism that's being talked about here is a kind of criticism that is rooted in enviousness, or is rooted in hatred. But Srila Prabhupada would criticize the aspect of the scientists or the Mayavadis that would kind of push people away from Krishna consciousness. That's what he was attacking. So he didn't have a tendency to criticize personally. He saw Krishna in everyone and everything. But similarly, any Uttamadhikari, if we want to reach that level, we can gauge ourselves. Do I have a tendency to criticize people, to make myself feel better and look better, out of a sense of insecurity or envy? That's what this is talking about. Right? So advance in devotional service, free from the tendency to criticize, absorbed in Krishna consciousness, not distracted by worldly dualities. Srila Prabhupada was constantly chanting Hare Krishna. See? So he was fully absorbed when he was chanting, fully absorbed when he was preaching, when he was translating books, when he was giving talks, when he was advising devotees, when he was writing letters, when he was performing deity worship, fully absorbed in Krishna. This is the hallmark of an Uttamadhikari. And then they're capable of inspiring transformation in others simply through their presence or their words. Uttamadhikari says just one sentence or a few words, and the person hearing it, their life changes, transforms for the better. And this one is key. Always thinking of ways to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is Prabhupada's definition. You can see here, none of these are like very esoteric or things that are difficult to identify. These are things that can be seen and measured by anybody, you see. None of these symptoms are like, okay, yeah, he's living in the spiritual world all the time and he's seeing Radha Krishna in front of him. Yes, that's all part of it. But in the purport when Prabhupada describes it, he's saying like this, these are things that anyone can readily observe and evaluate and come to the conclusion that no, this is Uttamadhikari. Because day and night, all he is doing is thinking of spreading Krishna consciousness. That's all he does. Doesn't waste time on anything else. Prabhupada didn't go to watch the movies in the theaters, to get a break. No, constantly thinking, how can I give Krishna to others? So what do we do to such a devotee? We run to serve. We associate with them as much as possible, serve them with faith. This is the most intimate interaction described in this verse. Prabhupada's clear example of Uttamadhikari. He had no envy. He's always thinking of Krishna. devising means. This is from the purport.
Yeah. We're talking about like 6 o'clock. So
This is from the purport. He had no envy. He transformed lives through chanting and never criticized to elevate himself. The purport says, when a person realizes himself to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, he loses interest in everything but Krishna's service. Always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna. He understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Such a person is to be recognized as an Uttama Adhikari, and his association should be immediately accepted according to the 6 processes, Dadati, Pratigranati, etc. So you see how this ties in with the previous verse. That now when we find such a devotee, then we do all the 6. We exchange gifts, we open up our hearts, we offer prasadam, and so on. So this statement from the purport perfectly captures the essence of the Uttama Adhikari, one whose life mission is Krishna's mission, and who inspires the same in others. So how to respect an Uttama Adhikari? First of all, we identify them based on the symptoms we just talked about. Inquire submissively means, again, we ask questions with a great deal of respect, submission. Seek their association with humility whenever possible. And of course, it may not always be possible, but if possible, render some personal service. You can offer them garland, or maybe like you could see when devotees are rendering personal service to Prabhupada, they'd clean his room, they'd bring him his prasadam, they would fan him on a hot day, and so on. There's a great benefit in doing this to Uttama Adhikaris. But the key thing is we meditate on the instructions, because when Uttama Adhikari speaks, he or she, they speak for our benefit, bringing us closer to Krishna. These are the do's. Then we also want to avoid certain things. We want to avoid critiquing or analyzing their actions with mundane logic. We want to avoid familiarity without depth. You can't just assume, oh, we just meet them first time. Oh yeah, Uttama Adhikari, sure. And they pretend that, oh yeah, he's my friend. No. You want to avoid imitating their behavior prematurely. You can't just copy them. Oh yeah. Or taking their mercy cheaply. Taking it for granted, in other words. So to summarize, how can we take this verse and bring it to practical application? Respect everyone and avoid offenses. Even if someone doesn't chant 16 rounds or follow all the regular principles, doesn't matter. If they chant Krishna even once with affection, we offer mental respect. Lord Chaitanya told Satyaraj Khan that such a person is worshipable just chanting once. See. Build your association mindfully. In fact, last 3 verses, a lot of it is about association. How do you do that? Find those who uplift your Krishna consciousness, not just those who validate your opinions. If you want to grow, seek those who are ahead of you. Then 3, know your stage and grow from it. I may be Kanishta now. That's okay. We all start there. But don't stay there. Read, chant, take guidance, and gradually move to Madhyama. Definitely move out of the offensive stage right away. And then watch out for imitation. Sometimes we may imitate and think we're there. Don't copy the behavior of Uttama devotees without the prerequisite inner realizations that comes with maturity. Prabhupada warned against premature renunciation or artificial humility. Yes, be humble. But don't think that, okay, I've realized everything very quickly. No. Maintain the humility and allow the heart to get softer and softer. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada said, now all of you become exactly like me. So Prabhupada said, Srila Prabhupada is the embodiment of effortless grace. So perfectly normal, so perfectly natural, and a calming presence to the soul of anyone who had the fortune of being near him. We too can get this association of Srila Prabhupada through his teachings, through his example, through his murti form, through his disciples who are faithful to his instructions. And as his heirs, it is incumbent upon all of us to learn everything he taught and share with others. So I said, now all of you become exactly like me. So we work toward it. In other words, he said it's possible. Don't think it's too pie in the sky, but you work toward it with respect, with faith, with enthusiasm, with determination, with courage, and with patience. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you for your valuable time joining this discussion. And my obeisances to all of you. Hare Krishna. If anyone has any comments or questions, we could have a few minutes of discussion. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So I want to thank so many devotees that joined. We have 53 connections today. Wonderful. Yes, so first hand up is Min. Min. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for such a wonderful class. I have a question. Towards the last portion of the lecture, in the practical application, you mentioned that we should know our stage and grow from it. And I like to ask, I think sometimes, maybe a lot of times, that might be maybe the most difficult thing for us to do, or at least personally for me to do. It's difficult in the path of bhakti, especially not being in it too long. It's a lot of times hard to gauge as to where I am. So what would be the best way to know where I am in bhakti stage?
Yes, so the question is, how do I determine my stage?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So of course, we talked about the 3 stages, the 3 levels. Kanishta is one with chant, but is weak, immature understanding, and we know how to identify, right? Sadhana is irregular, focused more on rituals and social identity, quick to judge others. Do I have any of those traces? Or have I moved away from it? Actually, maybe last year I had quite a bit of that, but I think I've kind of grown out of it. I couldn't care less anymore. I mean, I'm really tired of that. I really want to just focus. Then you made some progress. You have lists of things, right? And some of them you can see that we used to do it, but we don't care for it anymore. So some progress is made. You don't need to discuss this part with anyone else necessarily. You can just look at your own lists. And you can say, I'm somewhere between Kanishta and Madhyama, in the sense that, okay, in the matrix of all these qualities and habits and tendencies, I think I've come out of a few of them that are kind of cringe now when I think about it. I used to do it. I can't believe I used to do it. But hey, So there's that. Madhyama, the sadhana is regular. They are cultivating humility in a real sense. The discernment is getting better and the faith is deepening. Right? So you see that as well. And the remembrance of Krishna in moment to moment or day to day or event to event is more frequent. See? And you're seeking progressive association. So to self-assess, these are the questions you can ask, right? Are you regular and sincere in chanting and reading? Do you avoid fault finding and instead trying to serve devotees? Do you feel humility and dependence on Krishna? If not yet, then maybe we're in the Kanishta stage, and that's okay. That's okay too. Your growth starts with honesty. So, daily personal sadhana, steady japa, shastra reading, and kirtan. Of course, don't chant just for the number, chant with prayerful, dependent mood, associating with higher devotees. Avoiding offenses, especially criticism. The main disqualifier for us is finding fault in devotees. That's why in the Uttama category, it says one who is completely free from the tendency to criticize others or tendency to find fault with others. So we counteract that by mentally honoring devotees, even those we struggle with. Now, another important aspect of judgment or assessing is we assess where we are. Don't judge who we are. Because what happens when you say, oh, you are just a Kanishta, then we lock ourselves in. See, you don't label ourselves. Okay, this is the stage I'm in. I'm level 2. I'm on this floor of the building. It's not a bad thing. Rupa Goswami wants us to be realistic, not artificially humble. But at the same time, we know that it's just a place. It's not our label. It's not our identity. That's important. Otherwise, we can tend to think and be self-loathing all the time. So the simple formula for growth is 4 H's. Hear from advanced devotees, honor all level of devotees, help those less experienced, and hold yourself to a higher internal standard of humility and sincerity. Right? So hear, honor, help, and hold yourself to a higher standard. Okay. Is that okay, Min? Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. That was really great. I think, when I heard that practical application, I think the first thought that just entered my mind was, I am for sure 100% Kanishta stage. And being in that state, I have a sense that we're lacking some self-awareness there. So I wanted to ask that question just to make sure that I had some of these points clearly. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay. We have a hand up over here, Shyam, followed by 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐴. Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna and Hare Krishna. That was my dad's name. Sorry, I forgot to rename. Sorry. So my question, I have a question. Could I ask?
Yes, of course.
Okay. My question is let's say that I'm a Madhyama, the devotee of the second stage, and then let's say that I want to progress to the next stage, but because you're inspired by another Uttama and by another devotee in the third stage, but in the slides you said to not mock Uttama devotee, but it's also important to get inspired. You also said that in the slides. So how do you progress from that to that?
Okay, it's a very good question. So the question is about imitating, if I'm not mistaken. We want to grow. Suppose we want to go to the Uttama level, but we're not there yet. So what does it mean to imitate versus to follow? Right? So imitation and following are a little different. What does imitation look like? Imitation looks like making a claim that I see no fault in anyone, even though in the heart I'm still envying pride, or I'm harboring envy or pride. But we claim that I don't see any fault there. So that is called imitation. Another imitation is that one may feel that he or she is above the rules, so they neglect the rules or neglect certain sadhana, I'm already Uttam. I don't need to chant all my rounds. Okay, I'm so close to Krishna. It's the same thing. See, that's imitation. And then another one is like preaching at a level that beyond what one is realized, giving all kinds of advice that the person is not quite realized on. That is called imitation in preaching. So even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, don't become a false Paramahamsa. Better to be a sincere Madhyama than imitation Paramahamsa. So the imitation, one of the dangers of imitation is that it avoids personal responsibility for purification because you think you're already there. Second, it may lead to neglect of sadhana. And third, it can mask pride in our own sentimentalism. So how do we get inspired rather than imitate? We serve, we hear from one and follow the instructions. Keep admitting your own stage and eagerly aspire to progress, but look inside. Should I claim to not fault finding anyone, and in my heart I'm still fault finding? It's no point claiming. Better just say who you are. So that's the difference: imitation and following. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yes, Shyam Gopal Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So my question is more towards the disciples of Prabhupada, right? There are many disciples of Prabhupada who are at a stage, they took many criticism, they never fall off, like some of their own, I would say, they were from the same group of, drug addict and, and also there are some scholars, right? So those in that group, some of them fell off, some of them continued, even with the criticism. After Prabhupada, we had some turmoil and they continue that path. So in that particular group, we see many Uttamadhikari, right? Same like, so can we get a proper definition through the disciple? Prabhupada was definitely was Uttamadhikari. He could do so much in such a short period of time in US, but his disciples who are directly got a connection with him, they also are doing like many magnanimous things, right? In keeping Prabhupada in center. So how do we relate to them in your practical when we meet them person to person when they are still alive, right? How do we take that advantage?
Yes.
For those
So,
situations?
yeah, that's a good question because we want to identify. So thankfully, the identification criteria Srila Prabhupada has given quite objectively in the purport, right? That what are the symptoms? His faith in Krishna is unshakable and his practice of bhakti is very solid. Right? So that you can see that they've been practicing for like 60 years. They've not stopped. I mean, it's unshakable. And they've gone through all kinds of turmoil in their lives. ISKCON has gone through all kinds of turmoil. Their own personal lives have gone through up and down, but they're sticking with their rounds. They're sticking with their knowledge, right? They're now weakened. And you see, many of them are not at all interested in criticizing. They couldn't care less. They have no envy, right? Then they're fixed in sadhana. They, even today, even though they've been practicing for 60, 50, 40 years, sometimes, 50 plus, but they're compassionate and deeply humble. Like they will not claim to be great devotees, but just their compassionate nature, when you talk to them, they'll treat you so kindly. It's almost like you feel that, no, this is definitely a child of Prabhupada, spiritual child, clearly. And you're right, there's so many like that still available. So when we see them, what do? Definitely get as much association as we can from them. We can accept them as our guides in certain ways. We can read their books if they've written books. We can hear the lectures. If they have some time for us, but if we can serve them in person sometimes, we can go and do some of that. So definitely all those things are there. And some of them are even available where you can reach them and talk to them. You know, we have been fortunate ourselves also to have met so many such devotees, and both among Prabhupada's spiritual daughters and spiritual sons. Many of them are leaders in the movement, but many of them have not taken like official leadership positions, but they're still giving a lot of guidance to the younger junior devotees, and they're so sweet. And they're still, so if we are fortunate enough to meet them, if you hear their glories, we should find them out and see if we can get some time to spend with them. Especially if you're traveling on vacation, you go to places where there's more such strongholds, like certain temples, in certain communities in America. I have more of them, like Florida community, Alachua. That's the biggest concentration of Prabhupada disciples. If you want to see them, you can meet them just in the morning program. Just go and talk to them after the morning program. They can give you so many stories of Prabhupada. That's how you can open up a conversation. They'll tell you their experience with Prabhupada. You know, it's a good way because they get engaged in remembering Prabhupada. We get the benefit of having firsthand nectar, and also we get a chance to serve them a little bit. So these are some ways where we could definitely, you know, take advantage. But we go to Sadhu Sangha, we see so many of them. You know, that's another good place to see. So definitely, we should do it now while they're still with us. Time is moving right along, and so they may not be with us forever. So definitely take advantage. It's a good question. Thank you, Shyam Gopal Prabhu. Okay, we have Sandamini Mataji and then Danavari Mataji. Go ahead, Sandamini.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, spiritual growth is fluid, right? And these labels like Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttamadhikari are more like diagnostic tools for us, not identities, right? And also with that, can we, like, to understand how much my faith is deepening, and also to see where, if I'm progressing spiritually, wouldn't that be the benchmark of me moving along? Should I really think about these labels, Prabhuji, or can I, the way I'm treating others with compassion or avoiding envy or practice being more selfless, wouldn't, if I notice those things, wouldn't those be my yardsticks or benchmarks?
Yes, definitely. It's a good question. We don't need to worry so much about whether we have reached Madhyama or Kanishta. Remember, that's not what this verse is about. This verse is about how we interact with others. You see, if you see a devotee who is clearly Kanishta, where they have not much clue about the philosophy, they treat others very harshly, their behavior is very unexemplary, we don't follow them so much, and yet we end up just trying to serve them and trying to learn from them and trying to follow them. That doesn't make sense, right? We want to emulate their behavior. Sometimes we see someone may have a higher, say, position politically or something, or managerially, but their behavior is very clearly Kanishta. But if I think their managerial position is the one, it means that they're great devotees, you know, and then I start emulating the way they treat other devotees, and I see they're treating very roughly, so I feel I can also treat other people roughly. You see, we didn't apply the framework of Rupa Goswami, and I end up developing the bad habits, which I think are acceptable because that person in my mind is a great devotee. You follow? You see the danger here. So that is why Rupa Goswami teaches us, respect all of them, but emulate only certain categories. Emulate means try to get inspired and try to follow and learn from these set examples who've set examples for us. Follow the right example. See, that's the whole point of this framework. It's not that, am I uttama yet? That's not the point of this verse. We don't need to gauge ourselves. This is for us to gauge how we should interact with the devotees around us. That's all. Does that help,
Thank you so
Radhini
much.
Mataji?
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And also identifying somebody would be through their actions or how they practice their sadhana. Would those be
Well,
a
that
good?
was the whole class, right? If you
Yep,
recall
yep.
that slide, and who am I to judge?
Yes.
That's not the point. We have to identify them as certain criteria. Now, you're absolutely right. It is a sadhana, but primarily it's how they treat other devotees. How do you feel around that person? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel uplifted? Are they treating people so much better than even I know how to treat other people? You see?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mother. Yes, Danavari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, wonderful class. Very practical and uplifting. My question is, Prabhu, when you mentioned that we try to when we write the emails, we always like try to write, please accept my humble obeisances, and so many nice words and all. And sometimes I think in my mind that sometimes we don't like. Let's say we are just formally writing and then we don't mean so much. There are so many words, and then I feel like, am I pretending to do this? And that's how I feel sometimes. To write all the time somebody who are our friends or anybody, we are supposed to respect them and all, but even though internally we feel like we don't, whatever their behavior or what, even though they're something we don't like, or even though we like something, but we have to write all these nice words, and we don't even help when they need help, or if we need help, so vice versa. So then I feel like sometimes it's like a pretending or like a dumper kind of thing. Would you talk about it as how we are addressing whether it's right mindset or thinking like that or not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. This is the age-old question of being honest and being true to our feelings, at the same time balancing what is considered acceptable, decent behavior in terms of mutual respect and socially acceptable. Like, for example, we write an email. That's an example you mentioned. In all emails, we write, please accept my humble obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, right? Even though we may not like that other devotee we're writing to. We think that devotee is really harsh and unfair or whatever, but still we say, please accept my humble obeisances. Should I, in the name of honesty, exclude that line and just say, just go straight to the message? No. See, Rama Mataji is saying, no, you're absolutely right, Rama Mataji. Why? Because the baseline is respect. That person, regardless of how bad or good, whatever I think they are, that person is chanting Hare Krishna. They may not be chanting all the rounds. We don't know, but they chant sometimes. They chant. They're identifying as devotees. They come to the temple. They're trying to help, whatever it may be. Sometimes we may think they're doing more damage than they're helping, but that's fine. Main thing is they're devotees. So the baseline respect of Hare Krishna and bowing down a little bit is okay. That's what we're supposed to do. But we don't have to flatter them, you see. We don't have to now go above and beyond. Oh, wow, you're such a great devotee. Just seeing you uplifts my soul like anything. And then deep inside, we're like, I feel crushed. We don't need to do that. It is Hare Krishna. That's it. And move on. That's it. We don't have, but basic respect. I mean, even in regular society, basic respect, people don't like you. They still say hi, hello, good morning. He said basic respect is there. That's important. Doesn't mean you're being dishonest to yourself. Doesn't mean that if they're being rude to me, then I have to be rude to them. Otherwise, I will not feel that there's equity in a relationship. No. We can take the higher road, at least somewhat higher, and be decent in our exchanges. That's important. But it's also important to not get into this flattery mode and trying to kind of pump people up for nothing when they don't deserve it, and makes things even worse, because then it confuses your own heart. Why am I doing this? Why am I being so insincere? So there's that balance. So there's a baseline of respect which we give to everyone. And then everything else we have to gauge based on our assessment of that framework. All right?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yes, very wonderful answer and practical. Hare Krishna. Thanks a
Right.
lot.
Okay. Esha Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hey.
It was wonderful class as always. I have one doubt here. Like we have to identify people's quality to decide whether we need to learn from them or we need to stay away from them. While doing that, we need to judge them. So naturally, we have to find good and bad qualities. And while finding faults in others, make my own level down or make my devotion less. So how to distinguish between judging people but not finding faults in other? So if you can please explain a little bit on those 2 points. Thank you.
Yes, and they're very related. They look very similar, but they're two different things. It's like day and night. Okay. Finding faults in others with a critical spirit will lower your devotion, like you said, 100%. It will. Even if it's done under the banner of discernment. You see, this is one of the most subtle and dangerous traps in bhakti, which is why I had the whole slide about that on how we should then, assess our attitude, right? If you recall that slide, the devotional attitude to cultivate, that I'm also struggling. I just want to protect my practice. Let me be kind but clear about my boundaries. Krishna is in their heart. He'll guide them in due course. So this is a humble attitude that we need to cultivate. Okay, that's important. Now, the key difference between discernment and fault finding: discernment is motivated by service and self-protection. Fault finding is motivated by ego, envy, and superiority complex. That you have to identify in yourself. Is this driven by ego, envy, and superiority? Holier than thou. Yes, I'm so much better than her. I'm so much better than him. Discernment is called vivek. You know this term, vivek. We use it. Vivek is discernment. It sees others' limitations with a sense of compassion. Whereas fault finding is called dosh darshi. You see, dosh. Fault finding delights in exposing or mentally criticizing others. See how good I am at finding. We find a delight in that. No, we should feel more compassion when we identify someone, when you're discerning, we see their limitations. If you're finding a sense of joy, it's morbid joy. That is doshadarshi, you see, not vivek. Vivek, discernment, leads to the right association and spiritual progress. Fault finding leads to pride, offense, and spiritual stagnation. We feel mentally agitated. You don't feel growth spiritually, you feel stagnated. You see, so this is how you measure which way, you see. Vivek keeps your heart soft and prayerful. Doshadarshi makes our heart hard and defensive. So this is how you can judge your own. That's why Prabhupada said that, one should not criticize others' behavior or faults. Fault finding is great offense. It hampers our devotional service. You're 100% right. But we have to be cautious in choosing our association. You have to be cautious in choosing our role models, in choosing our teachers and our guides. But the posture of our heart matters. I'm avoiding this association not because I'm better, but because I'm weak. And I want to protect my bhakti. This humble discernment does not harm devotion. In fact, it's healthy. It's required. Rupa Goswami is going out of his way to tell us to do it. He's saying, keep your distance with respect. Why would he say that? Rupa Goswami. We are all supposed to be Rupanugas. And this is nectar of instruction, only 11 verses. He's put all the main instructions in these 11 verses. So that means it's very important. And Prabhupada writes very clearly what to do, what not to do. See? That's why practically we pray all the time. My dear Lord, help me see through the eyes of service and humility, not through pride. My Lord, please guide my actions. Please let me speak what is necessary. Please let me speak for the protection and support of others, not just to vent. So on and so forth. So devotion grows in the clean heart. All right.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's a good question. Yeah, that's the thing is this is a delicate line, but it's a thin line, but it's a clearly black line that we have to know to do what not to do. See, so to summarize, we want to discern with humility, avoid with compassion, and never criticize with pride. Okay. All right. So I think we've gone quite over. But thank you all once again for staying so long. I appreciate you coming from all over the place, all over the world. It means a lot to me that you're finding this useful. And please keep bringing your questions and keep coming. We've already covered 5 verses. This is the 5th one. There's 5 more to go, 5 more sessions to go. So we hope to see you next Tuesday as well, same time. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Please accept my obeisances, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.